Welcome to the Inner Peace Masterclass. I'm Julie Cairnes and I'm a life mastery and conscious creation coach. Today I have with me world-renowned shaman Itzhak Beery, who's also a teacher, healer, a speaker, community activist, and author of at least 3 books. I think it may be more than that. Welcome to the Inner Peace Masterclass, Itzhak. I'm so happy to have you here with me today.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm really thrilled.
Or should I say tonight for you? It's quite late, I know.
Well, this after midnight? Yeah, after midnight.
Yeah. Yes, New York, Australia here, it's after midday.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. What a really good starting place, because I guess for me, this, and for the audience who's viewing, it's about acknowledging a world in trauma, healing, and the work that shamans do in healing work is incredibly important to acknowledge, I think, in the world. I guess I'd love to hear a little bit about your personal journey, because I know the journey of the shaman is not usually an easy one, to get to where you are now, because the point, I guess, of this entire masterclass is for people to find a way to their own inner peace, and acknowledging that that affects their external environment, and which is very much a shamanic worldview, in my understanding.
Yes. Well, I never really meant to become a shaman. That was not something that I thought that I have the qualities, or I always thought that other people have the ability to see and foresee other people's life or experiences. I never considered myself that gifted. And so I was a painter. I was a graphic designer. I had an advertising agency in New York. I was a businessman in many ways. And I never thought that would be the path that I will take. I grew up in Israel in a kibbutz, far away from any kind of spiritual or religious experiences. It was kind of looked down upon in Israel at that time, because we tried to create a whole new society of people who are working the land, which is in many ways that was a good training for me to become a shaman, because we were living on the slope of a mountain and surrounded by nature, and it was a great training with working with animals and the spirit of the mountains. So when I actually started to walk on that path in closer to my midlife crisis, around 40, I started to feel like such an emptiness, that with all my achievement and with all my awards in graphic design and advertising, and my family and everything that I've already achieved, something was missing. And I found the answers in a book that I read, and then I took a workshop, and then I discovered that I have some of those gifts that I believe that everybody has. So today I really believe in it. That's what really I was teaching many people to understand, that we are all shamans, that we are all healers. We all have that capacity, and it's actually a built-in our DNA to be able to vision and to be able to heal, because that's part of the survival of the human race, that we have to take care of other people and ourselves.
And what were some of the gifts that you discovered during your initial forays into the shaman world?
Well, first of all, I discovered that beside the world that we see and feel in our 5 senses, there is another world, is the world of the unseen spirit. And those spirit world, or the world that we can experience in our senses, in many ways, sometimes it's even more important than the world that we're experiencing here, which is for some of us. When you don't have that education, it sounds like strange or made up, but when I start, and I was very cynical when I grew up. But when I started to see that there is a correlation with my visions and my dreams, and what really happens in my life or my clients' life, I can understand that there are direct correlation between the spirit world, or the world that we don't see, and our ancestors in the way they interfere in our everyday life. So sometimes if you get sick, it may not be your own sickness. It could be that some other spirit from another lifetime interfere with your health, or they want you to do certain things, and that's the one way for them to make sure that you do that.
And I'll let you know in this moment that I have also done some shamanic training. So I'm not sitting here in any cynicism whatsoever. I'm very intimate with a lot of...
Sure.
I have a different journey. We all have our different journey. And I'm very interested in your journey because you have met with some very remote shamans out in the Amazon and I don't know, in Peru, I'm not sure. Are you willing to tell us a little about some of your connections and what you've learned?
Sure.
Thank you.
So in 1995, I started to be interested in shamanism, and then in 97, a couple of years later, I went on a trip to Ecuador, to the Amazon, and to the Andes. And in the Amazon, we met with shamans from the Shuar tradition. They are very deep in the rainforest. They were very traditional, and we've done some plant medicine and other ceremonies, which truly blew my mind. I never understood that or never experienced something like that. First of all, from people who are very rarely meet other people, white people, in their area, and also that I had these experiences that I met spirit in the spirit world, that the shamans call upon them to work on my body, and I really felt the physical effect of the spirit world within my body, and he was also able to remove them at his own will, and I truly experienced this, and that really made me a little bit confused, because I could not understand how I could experience the movement of spirit within my body and at the same time know that it's absolutely real. There was a physical presence of unseen world within me. And then I went to the Andes and I met other shamans who don't do plant medicine, but they do La Limpia ceremony, which is a totally different ceremony, and they called Yachaks. And the Yachaks are birdmen, people who are wearing these crowns of feathers that I have now because I was initiated into it. And those are the people who know how to fly between the worlds and bring information and healing to people.
Is this Siberian? Am I wrong?
Sorry?
Is that Siberian?
No, these are not. No, Yachaks are from the Ecuador, from the Andes, from the high Andes.
I know there are some people who are interested. There are some people who knew that I would be interviewing a shaman during this masterclass, and we're wanting to see if I could ask you a little about ayahuasca, the medicine, how that actually, what that experience was for you. You know, are you able to go a little more deeply? Because I know there are some unfortunate Western experiences too, with some people who've had some very bad ayahuasca experiences, but I can feel with you that you've had very guided and powerful, protected kind of journeys under great guidance.
I had an experience with with native people deep in the rainforest, uncorrupted shamans. They were not ayahuasqueros, they were shamans. And there's a big difference between those who know how to serve you but don't know how to heal you, than shamans who use ayahuasca or natem to heal you. It's a huge difference because, some people experience that ayahuasca done in different places in the world, together with 40 or 60, 80 people in a room. And then, of course, the ayahuasca or the shaman can't really heal or take care of you. I have a very mixed feeling about all of that, and it's a huge subject for me.
Yeah,
I take groups to the Amazon, to Ecuador now, and we do go to shamans, real shamans in the rainforest to do ayahuasca, on the condition that they are prepared, they know how to journey, they understand the working spirit, they know how to understand what the symbolism of the shamanic language. And you have to understand that ayahuasca originally, at least in the Amazon and in Ecuador, is given to children from the age of 6 or that are around that age, so they can start understanding that the correlation between the world of spirit and the world that we're experiencing here. And so slowly they develop relationship between the two worlds. Here we have people who come from big cities and they are thrown into a jungle. They are thrown into a situation they don't know how to understand and they don't have the tools. And some of them get paranoid, some of them get crazy, and some people have all kind of different issues that they come to me or to other shamans to be healed from that. And I think that that if you want to do ayahuasca, and there are many people who wants to do that as a ceremony, as a rite ceremony of some sort, is you really have to prepare yourself. You have to maybe take some shamanic classes and understand the work with shaman. Have a power animals or spirit guides to help you in this journey. Don't just go cold turkey into something that you don't really know and expect to have some kind of a Disney World experience. It's just not going to happen. And,
I think the Western concept of drug use is very different than elsewhere in the world. I've felt this for a long time, is that there's a deep lack of understanding of the sacred use of drugs. People want to do it on a daily basis, to become drug affected, to change their reality on a daily basis. And it's used in other cultures, maybe not so regularly, maybe more in a ceremonial sense and like in a guided sense. So I think that use of it, almost like having a cigarette or a joint that some people will have, that it's a very different concept of, it's not kind of from a sacred viewpoint.
Well, you have to understand that the ayahuasca in its original form was taken only by the shaman, so he can able to journey to inside the person's body to remove blocked energy or the poison arrow that a person was sent to. The ayahuasca helped the shaman journey into that person's spiritual body to remove that energy. And it was given to the clients only when the client had physical problems, so he can purge the acidity or the parasites within the stomach. So for the clients, it really was done as a tool for purging. It was not done for clients to vision at all. It's only given to the initiates, to the people who are in a need for vision quest.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so sacred, because it is for a vision quest, a tool for the initiates to go into the sacred waterfall, stay there for 2 weeks, drink ayahuasca, and get a vision.
Yeah.
And what's happening now is become a Coca-Cola for every person that come to the jungle. But the use of it is it's a misuse of that thing. Now, I'm not saying that we should not have visions, but those visions are so powerful and so important that I am still, after 20 years, working on the same vision that I received 20 years ago, the same message. And I'm afraid that some people who are going into multiply usage of ayahuasca don't pay attention to the message that the vine is giving them. And they are going after a quick fix or shortcuts instead of using those wisdom of the plants and making their life and the society life better.
Yeah. I'm curious if you're prepared to talk about what the vision was that you are still working on, unless that's very deeply personal to you.
Well, I wrote about it in my book because I think that it's quite important, because when I was taken to a moth to fly over the Amazon, and I was shown the beauty of that trees and forest and animals and the rivers, and the spirit of the jungle asked me to help protect the forest and the wisdom of the people who lives in the forest.
Yeah.
And I came back and I was very depressed because I didn't know how to do it. What can I do? So for a few years I was pondering what that would be. I can't go and plant trees. I can't go into the government. But what I decided to do is to create a website. It's called shamanportal.org, where I bring all the community, the global shamanic community together in order to spread the word of shamanism.
Yeah.
And so that's I decided that's my contribution. And whatever I do from then on, with all my teachings, the workshops, the books, and all of my activities, is really part of that commitment that I made for the spirit of the jungle. And I'm not saying that I did not do other ceremonies also, but I do once a year or so, maybe one or two. But I do that also in the jungle. I do it in a respected with native indigenous people that really understand the spirit of ayahuasca. And I want to tell you one more story, is that when I was in Brazil, in the Rio Negro area, one day the chief of the Tucanos tribe came to us, and he invited us for a special ceremony that all the chiefs and the shamans in the area decided that they have to do, because they got a message from the ayahuasca that the ayahuasca is very angry because the shamans and the native themselves abuse the power of ayahuasca. And they wanted to make a ceremony to appease that spirit and make a commitment to honor the spirit of the jungle. So it goes both ways. The native people are now infected with the greediness of the Western world with money. It's destroyed their community. It destroyed their social infrastructure. It transformed their sharing community into rich shamans who goes there and do not share their money with the rest of the tribes, and create classes within the tribe, and it create envy and jealousy, and it breaks down the structure of the society. Plus, just think about it, the amount of ayahuasca drinks, teas that are now produced to send to all over the world, you need to cut the vines, and the vines grow. It takes 15 years to a vine to grow to a place, to a size that you can use. And so we are going to cut our own medicine out of existence in the jungle itself.
Yeah.
so we are cutting the vines, we are cutting the chacarona, we are cutting there is, we don't farm it. We just go into the forest and we found it. And it's not, there is a scarcity of those vines. And those people in the West that drink it every 2 weeks or every week are helping in destroying the forest with totally unconscious, only because they are spiritually greedy.
Yeah, I think people need to hear this message. They do. That's really tragic. And, you know, it's so hard. I don't think there are any Amazon tribes or any remote tribes that are untouched anymore by Western contact. And I think the last ones that were have been discovered and destroyed. I mean, it's incredibly tragic what's happened to the remote ones that were just completely isolated, which was such a pure, pristine way to live. I just don't even think, it'd be very unlikely that there's any left. Just another question I did want to ask you was around the entity removal, which is a very strong aspect of shamanic work also. It's very real. I'm seeing a lot more of it myself. A lot more people are acknowledging that they believe that they have an entity has entered into either into their being, their psyche, their body. I'd be interested to hear how you work. I do notice that you do work with entity removal and also protection for people.
Yeah, it is very important part, and I have to tell you that it's not common to all shamanic traditions, but in South America it's very, very common. And you know, I work with many indigenous shamans, and they never really taught me how to work with it until I met that. And when I was totally surprised when I saw these spirit coming down and attacking a person's body. And then I went back to my teachers from the Amazon, and I asked him how to help me remove those spirit. And in the Brazilian or the not Brazilian, but in the Amazonian language, it's called akuras.
Right.
And the akuras are those evil spirit that comes in many different shapes and form, and they enter into a person's energy field or body through the cracks of fear in the person's body, and they create havoc. And they could create movement in the body. They can create sickness, and they create work to stop the movement of different organs of the body. And so there is a different protocol to different energies, and I happen to do quite a lot of that. And it is not something that I really love doing, but I do for pretty good results. But you have, as you know, it is real. It's I had people who had the unstoppable shaking of their hand, and they went to many different doctors, and the only thing that it was a spirit attachment, and we removed it after 3 sessions, and this woman never had it again. So and there is also a different way that I learn how to do protection from different spirit, and use the usage of plants, or the use of sea salt and other minerals, sulfur, and I teach that.
Yeah, because there most definitely are people working with malevolent energies out there, which we have to acknowledge. So the word shaman itself intrinsically has that meaning of reigniting, the ability to ignite our own fire, to light our own fire. That's who we are, and many shamans, I know they work differently throughout the world, but work through their own healing to then bring that out to the community. And the problem, I think, has been that over, recent history, 100, 200 years, shamans haven't been in their community, and they've been across all cultures, Celtic, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but they have been marginalized and often on the periphery, like the fringe dwellers of communities. And many of us hope that we'll be brought back within the community, and it is happening in some communities. It's not easy to engineer because there is still that fear in people's DNA, in a sense. And I believe that many of us who are working in it, it's not our first lifetime. You know, that I have past life memory, and I'm sure you do too. But I'm just wondering, just your feeling around. I'm curious of the question of good and evil, because you talked about the poison arrow. We talk about entities. Some of it does come from others. There are people with definite ill intent towards others, and it's not unconscious. They consciously do it. They're consciously trying to harm others. So, you know, in our role as healers, what do you feel? I mean, what do you personally? Well, in a way, I'm asking maybe what your philosophy is around that.
Around.
Okay, some people say there is no good and evil, that everything is of
well,
and
well, the concept of good and evil, it's not unique to the South America, or it's also prevalence in the Asian cultures. It's also in the Kabbalistic tradition, the Jewish tradition, mystical tradition. The idea is that everything has two sides, good, evil, masculine, feminine, black and white, day and night. Everything has two sides. And we can't have world without those two elements.
That duality and polarity.
Yes, so we have to have these two elements, the good and the evil. Our work is to create balance between them. And that's really, my great-grandfather was a Kabbalistic rabbi and a healer too.
Nice.
It's something that I did not knew until very recently. We found a letter that was written about him, that he devoted his life to the fight between the big struggle between the good and evil. And he said that our life purpose, our life goal, the reason why we are here, is to help bring the light into the darkness of the world. So to take the light and bring it down to, it's almost like light the basement, light the shadows.
Yeah.
And the more light we bring into the shadow, the better the world will be. And so it is an ongoing battle between the fear and the love, the light and the darkness. And I don't think that anybody think that we can have only one world with just masculine forces, or just feminine forces, or just day or no night, or just good and no evil.
Yeah.
That part of it is entrenched in our life work.
It is.
That's what we need to do. And it's a personal journey for us to choose every moment, to choose between the darkness in us, or the shadow, the evil forces that are within each of us, and to choose love.
Yeah, and my belief is the shaman is very much the person who stands in that very magical place between the two worlds, in the middle of the duality, the actual lightning rod to connect the heaven and the earth. It's very like the magician element, the heaven and the earth, between bring the male and the female. Like, it's very much that the 0 point that we stand on, you stand on, in a sense, to stand between those polarities and harmonize.
Yes, and they're absolutely correct. And he need to choose, to choose every moment, every conscious moment. He need to choose between the two.
Yes.
But I think that it's a choice that every person have to make.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because any extreme, imagine that you are going to live in a place where it's totally darkness, or the whole cycle. There's no day, there's no night. It's just all night. or the other way around, you have just a day. So, or if you just be a feminine energy and now masculine, you really need to be in both, in a place of balance.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for the work you do in the world. It's wonderful, and I wish we had more time to talk, but I knew it wasn't going to be long enough. I'm just wonder if you can talk a little about the free gift that you're offering our viewers who are watching this. Now, let me see if I can find the 7-minute audio on how to detect and clear negative energies, and the bridge to the lower and upper world, your body. So those two audio.
Well, I think that they are both very, very interesting. It's a way to, is an introduction to these two subjects, and I think that I'm sure you're going to enjoy learning about that, and I hope you do. And if you have any questions, you can always let me know, and through Facebook or through my website, and I'll be very happy to connect with you.
Because all of those links will be on the page involved with this masterclass, so people will be able to see the work you're doing. And I guess just personally, I'd just like to ask you one more question briefly.
Sure.
Around anyone who's interested in studying the shaman path, because in a sense it's a calling that grabs you. You don't always get to say yes or no. And I have had people say things like, oh, I know of a 6-week shamanic course. And I often say to people, do not step into that path lightly, But if you have a calling, research the teacher, be very clear about the road you go down. So I just wonder if you have advice for people who are feeling like dipping their toes in the shaman waters. Yeah.
I think that, as I said in the very beginning, that I truly believe, and then it's not just my personal belief, but it's also the shamans that I work with, the indigenous shamans, not so much people from the northern and the western cultures, is that they all believe that we are all shamans.
Yeah. Yep.
We all have the ability to dream, to vision, to heal, to make other people feel better.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean that you have to devote your life to it. I did not, when I first started to be interested in that, I never thought that that's what I'm going to do. You never know what's going to become of you.
Yeah.
Although there are some people who are incredibly ambitious about that they feel strongly about it, and they go and do all these workshops and teachings and all of that. That's fine too. I am more of the reluctant shaman. I kind of like swept into it in spite of my resistance, and mostly because of my teacher forced me to do that.
Yeah.
He saw something in me that I did not understand that I have. So my suggestion is that go with that feeling. If it's something that you feel that interests you, that calls you, you never know where it's going to take you. But you owe to yourself to fulfill that part of yourself that is the healer part, that might help either you to have a higher consciousness of living, or you might be contributing to your family and your community. So, and I personally believe that the more, it used to be that in every community there was one shaman or two shamans that in a small village that everybody went to them.
Yeah.
I really feel that at this age, with the new Pachacuti, the new period of time now that we are entering in, that we really have to allow, or not allow, but encourage people to take their, to bring their shaman qualities to every person. Because when you experience that those energies or those wisdom that comes to you, you share it with other people, and the more healers we have, the better the world will be, the more balanced it will be. So I encourage people to take responsibility of their own shamanhood and become that. And even if you don't do that professionally, which is, I don't think that you should. Most shamans don't really do shamanic work 7 days a week. It's not their job. They have other jobs too.
Yeah.
So you can do it part-time. Why not? You can do it 2 days a week, 3 days a week, only on the weekend. You don't have to do it all the time. You don't have to become a full professional healer.
Yeah.
But do it, but live your life like you're a healer, like you're a shaman.
Well, I have most definitely heard other shamanic teachers say what you've said and agree that the world needs to be, that the world needs to open up to everyone finding their own inner shaman. So that's a beautiful message to end on. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
The world needs some pretty strong healing. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Welcome.
And I could talk to you for hours, but we'll have to leave. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, and I appreciate your project and your teachings, and I hope that everybody will go there and find their inner shaman and use it to make the world a better place so we can leave our grandchildren a world that is a little bit better than what we came here and we found it here.
Yeah, it certainly needs that love.
Yep. Thank you.